Hi, I'm Allie, co-founder of PotomacBeads, and in this Better Beader episode, I'm going to go over what I think is the professional way to finish off your beaded jewelry. This is whether or not you're doing a bracelet or a necklace, and when you're using beading cable or beading wire. Not bending wire or softer hard wire, and not thread and needles. This is just when you are restringing or when you're doing a bracelet. I have the essential tools sitting here, which is going to be a needle nose pliers and a wire cutters. If you're more of a fan of the look of the folded over crimp, you can also get out a crimping pliers as well. I'm going to show the exact way that you want to think about and go about stringing as well as finishing this off. So I have here my toggle clasp that I'm going to be using, which is size appropriate for my beads. I'm going to be stringing on some of these 6mm lapis onto this beading wire, which is 0.018 in the Beading 49 strand wire. I have cut enough of the wire that I have about 2 inches extra on each end, which is going to allow me a little flexibility to put extra wire through the beads. I have, in addition to the wire, I have those 2 pliers, and I have a crimp bead. The crimp bead goes onto the wire to start if you know the size. If you're not sure of the size of your piece, use a bead stopper first and attach to that. I've put on first my crimp bead, which is going to be a 2x2mm crimp bead. Then I put on my wire guard or my wire protector, run the wire through that as well as through my loop here. I'm going to push the wire up and through that nice crimp tube. Because I'm not using a crimping pliers, I'm just going in here with my needle nose pliers, and I am going to squish that down. I'm not doing it right up next to my wire guard. I'm leaving just a little bit of space because that's going to allow me to add a crimp cover to the piece. I'm not going to worry about the crimp cover yet. I'm going to put the crimp cover on at the very, very end. Now what I'm going to do is take a little time to string on my beads into whatever pattern I want. And as I'm stringing on, if you're doing the clasp ahead of time, go ahead and take that extra inch or so of wire and run it through the beads. If you cannot fit any of the double wire through any of the beads, you may want to contemplate using a thinner beading wire, so like a 0.015, or if it's really thick and really heavy, you might want to go up to a 0.024 in size. If you cannot get the wire back through it all, you can cut short right after the crimp tube. Just keep in mind that if you're not using a crimp cover, that may have a little bit of a sharp end that is going to annoy and scrape you. So if you do have to cut next to the bead, I would definitely recommend a crimp cover. I'm going to go ahead and string now to make my lapis bracelet. Once you have all of your beads onto your beading wire, you're going to mimic the ending of the bracelet. We're going to put on our crimp cover, then I'm going to put on my wire guard. Take my wire back through my wire guard and put on the other side of your clasp. Now you'll notice I have a lot of extra wire just so I could hold on and show you the extra techniques and tips. When this is in here, you want to make sure that the wire is actually falling into that little channel. You also want to make sure before you crimp down that the wire from the original starter end is ending in the middle of one of the beads. So you want to think about it ending right there in the middle or on the next one in the middle and not right between where the 2 beads meet, because again, we don't want it to be scratchy. We're going to put the wire through the crimp bead. And at the same time as we do that, we're going to take it down through, say, 3 beads. Whatever amount of beads I do on the first end is usually what I try to do on the second end. Pull that through at the same time as you're pulling your wire. You're going to push your crimp tube down towards your project and give a nice little tight pull. This is going to get the end to look the same as the beginning. Again, if you want that nice folded over crimp look, you're going to go into your crimping pliers, going first with the first hole and then the second hole turning over. I have a YouTube video how to finish as well if you're looking to finish. With the needle nose pliers, which I think is easier for many, you're just going to take that and crimp down on that flat bead tube there for the end. When you are doing this, you want to make sure that the wires are sitting side by side and that they're not crossed over top of one another. This is going to make that crimp tube have a nicer grip on the project. It's now time to cut off the extra wire that was used, and I'm using my nice flush cutters, pulling against the wire and pushing against the bead with my cutters. This is going to make a nice cut, and what's going to happen then is that that extra wire is just going to kind of disappear in between those beads. By the time I put my crimp covers on now, it'll tighten it up a little bit more. You want to make sure when you're using this that you don't have a lot of extra wire showing in the design, that it's all kind of hidden in there and that there's not a ton. But you do want to make sure that it's flexible and usable as you're working with it. When you get to an end here, you want to go in now and put on one of your crimp covers. Again, if you do not want to use crimp covers, which are going to cover and look rounded around the piece, then go ahead and use those crimping pliers. I'm going to go in now with my needle nose pliers and just close this crimp cover right around, gently around the crimp bead. It's going to look and cover the whole crimp bead and look like another rounded bead. On the other side here, same thing. I do these again at the very end. Put that crimp cover on. Make sure that it's sitting so it almost looks like Pac-Man there is eating the crimp bead. And close up that bead. You want to make sure that your crimp cover is not going over the wire guard at all, that it's not swallowing it. You don't want to open your crimp tube that's in there at all. So you just kind of want to position it so that it makes sure that it's on there nice and flat and that it looks like another bead when you're looking at your project. That's going to give a nice professional look to the end of the design using the crimp covers, using the wire guards, and attaching to the clasp. It makes it, again, a nice of a little statement if you actually put on a little charm hanging here as well with whatever your staple made by is. This is also my recommendation on how to repair broken jewelry that may come to you and give it that professional look. Not only is it the professional look, but it's also a good standard in order to keep the jewelry looking nice and making sure that it is not going to come apart. Keep in mind, one of the last Better Beader episodes I did talked about the different rings and when to use them and what to use them with. So you can check that out if you're wondering what type of ring or anything to attach to the end of your project and why you might use one over the other. As with all of these Better Beader episodes, again, the idea is to make you a more informed and better beader. So if you're somebody that just does things with thread and needle and somebody hands you their bracelet, the neighbor next door, that they want you to fix and repair, you should now know the steps on how to do that and the wire to select and the crimp covers and wire guards and what they're used for. Now again, if you want to do just a simple, quick, flat crimp with the needle nose pliers, no wire guards, no crimp covers, that's up to you. It's just depending on how much you want that to have that professional look at the end. As with all the Better Beader episodes and all of our YouTube videos, you can give us a little thumbs up if you like the video, as well as comment below and say why you use what you use to finish off your professional looking jewelry, as well as any tips, techniques, or tricks that you may have. Like if you do have a crimping pliers, it's a great way to close up that actual crimp cover, so check that out too. Look at the little indentation of those. As well as subscribe to this YouTube channel to get regular updates from us here at PotomacBeads. Remember, if you ever need any materials to enhance your jewelry making experience, you can check out the link below me in the description of the video to shop with us online at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu. As with all of the videos, thanks so much for watching and enjoy becoming a better beader.